Coming up on the FSR Sarc Fighter podcast, the story of a woman who is battling neurosarcoidosis.
All of a sudden, I could not lay down. I could not, every time I moved, it felt like there was this rod up my spine and it was hurting. And it was just like every time I moved, and it was extreme.
Jessica Souls is fighting sarc, but she also has a special connection to Marfan syndrome, another rare disease that claimed the life of her dear friend.
He dropped to the floor, and they couldn't revive him.
Jessica tells her sarcoidosis story and the story behind the organization called Jonnie's Goodguys, which fights for another rare disease.
It was suspected that he had Marfan's syndrome.
Her story is coming up.
This is the Sarc Fighter podcast, living with sarcoidosis and other rare diseases. Here's your host, John Carlin.
Hi, this is episode 119 of the FSR Sarc Fighter podcast. I'm your host, John Carlin. I do this podcast to bring you hope, help you understand what's going on with you, and to give you a sense of hope as you deal with this unpredictable disease. They call sarcoidosis the snowflake disease because it affects everybody differently. And man, have we seen that with all the different guests I've had here on the podcast over the years. And, the thing is if we can normalize it just a little bit, if you can hear that somebody else is going through the same thing that you are, and oftentimes it's because they're taking the same medication that you are. They might have sarcoidosis in a different part of their body, but they're still taking prednisone, and it's making them crazy. And it's good for you to know that you're not making it up. You really are feeling something that's caused by this prednisone, and you're hearing other people talk about it, and they say the same things are happening to them that are happening to you, and you can say, all right, I can get through this. I can do it. Well, that's why we do the podcast. And of course, as often as I can, we talk to researchers and we talk to clinicians, talk to people who are on the front lines of fighting this disease. And when you hear the progress they're making, and they are, that also gives you a sense of hope. Well, today I'll be talking with Jessica Souls. Jessica lives in Kentucky. She says it's northern Kentucky, essentially just across the river from Cincinnati, if you're trying to place that in your mind. And she'll be sharing her story about neurosarcoidosis, and honestly, it is very similar to my own. She has involvement on her spinal cord right at C6, which is in your neck, and that's exactly where I have it. And she's going to talk about how she felt the onset of the neuropathy and how they went searching and how they finally discovered what's going on with her. And once again, we have a person with an active lifestyle. Jessica is a fitness instructor. But even somebody like her, sarc has knocked her back quite a lot. And so you're going to hear her talk about that coming up. I'm very anxious for you to hear Jessica's story. Now, a couple of personal updates. I told you in the last episode that I had completed my 400-mile bike ride across New York State along the Erie Canal, and I'm still kind of reeling with happiness because of that accomplishment. I'm so happy to have done it. And in the couple of weeks since, summer has quieted down. And that has been great because it gave me the time in the mornings before I go to work to sit and edit a very nice video that I produced as we did that ride. And I just uploaded it to YouTube this morning as I'm speaking to you here it's August 9th as I'm recording this, and you'll hear this, I guess, on August 12th or thereabouts. So that's when it'll be released, the 12th. So anyway, 3 days ago, as you're hearing this, if you're hearing this on the day it's released, I have my full-time career is in television news, And I just can't help myself. When I go out and I do something epic like this, I have to record it and then I have to produce it up. And so there's music and there's slow motion video and there's fast motion video, and I'm on camera talking about the experience as I go along. And then you'll see and hear some of the amazing sights and the history of the Erie Canal, which is probably not something you woke up this morning and said, you know what I want to know? I want to know more about the Erie Canal. But I will tell you this. When you hear more about the Erie Canal, it's very interesting. Okay? You didn't know you wanted to know this, but trust me, you do. All right, so I've vlogged, which is video blogging, so the word vlog. I did that the whole way. I talked to some of the people. I looked at some of the bicycles, and there were some crazy bicycles on this trip, and then talked about the challenge of doing it, which was a challenge for me. The camping, which I had not done in 20 years. Mary and I, my wife and I, we got in a boat and we went through the lift locks along the canal. So just did a lot of different things, and there were a lot of surprises along the way, some setbacks. And I don't want to steal my own thunder, so you just have to watch to find out about that. And so what I'll do is I'll put a link in the description of this podcast, what I call the show notes, so you can click on it and you can watch it. Or if you go to just search on YouTube Biking for Boomers, or in Google just search Biking for Boomers, and my channel will come up. It's biking with the number 4 and then boomers, and you'll find my channel. And speaking of that, if I could just meander a bit more for a second here. So just to let you know, I'm over 60, which is no surprise if you listen to the podcast, and I'm kind of looking at my retirement options. I'm not ready yet, but I'm close enough that I'm starting to eye my exit strategy. And having sarcoidosis is a part of that because it accelerates my need to go do everything I want to do before sarcoidosis might make it so I can't. And if you've been listening, you probably know that right about now, I feel great. My condition is controlled, and other than the sort of permanent damage that I've discussed because of the situation on my spinal cord that has already happened that won't be repaired, I'm relatively normal. But once you've had that gotcha, you're always flinching. You're always waiting for the next gotcha to come along unexpectedly, like sarcoidosis did the first and then the second time, essentially, for me. So you're always wondering if the next one will be worse. So you think, man, if I want to ride the Erie Canal, I've got to do it this summer. If I want to go to Iceland, which I do, I better hurry up. If I want to go to Alaska, which I'm doing later this summer, I better hurry up and go. I've never been to Alaska. So for me, with my background in TV, it's never enough just to go. I need to record it. I need to produce it up. I need to put it out there for the world. It's just kind of who I am, like I did with the video I just told you about along the Erie Canal. Now, before everybody had a cell phone in their pocket, I had nice cameras, right? And I'm a decent photographer, and I like taking pictures. And, back in the day, people would look to me as being the photographer. But now with everybody's got an iPhone in their pocket, that's sort of a thing of the past. But you also have these little cameras like GoPros that go anywhere and shoot in 4K and of course the iPhones. And so it's relatively easy to create good quality video, and it seems like everybody in the world is doing that. But so you take that and then you do a bit of editing, which is another skill, and some storytelling, which is another skill, which I kind of know from doing TV news stories. And then all of a sudden, you can produce something that is watchable. And in my mind, it's not the best stuff out there, but it's in the top, percentile. It's better than a lot of the stuff that you can just click on and watch. And that's kind of where I feel like my stuff lives. But you have to get people to find it. Right? And that's not always so easy because you have to understand search engine optimization and social media push-outs and all this other stuff that I kind of intuitively know, but when it gets real granular, I get lost. But So, and this is where I'm going with this. Yesterday, my co-anchor on Channel 10, who is young and pretty and also has an entrepreneurial streak, she's got a small clothing business, so she's kind of like me with that, and she's, of course, very good at the video and the storytelling, yada, yada. She convinced me to create a TikTok channel to tell people about my biking channel. So, now, again, I have a YouTube channel, as I mentioned, Biking for Boomers, and there's about 25 videos on there, and some are kind of exciting. Mountain biking in Utah, riding the Champlain Islands in Vermont, riding my local trails, the Erie Canal story, all of that. And I don't get a ton of views, which is frustrating. And let me tell you a backstory that you don't know. My two oldest sons are professional YouTubers. They make their living doing YouTube videos, and their content lives in what they call the fandom space. Fandom is the people who watch or read or think about Harry Potter, Pixar, Marvel, these different sort of pop culture stories that are out there that are never ending and never die. And my sons do amazing. They have a professional studio. They have staff. They make their living doing nothing but YouTube and also some podcasting. Jonathan has been on the podcast, so we've talked about that with my oldest son, Jonathan, because he was growing his mustache as a fundraiser for FSR, and I think he raised almost $10,000. Anyway, so my sons are really, really good at this, and they're the next generation of media. I was traditional television, and now they're doing YouTube. But I want to do YouTube. I can't help it. I have some videos, some stories that I've done for Channel 10, WSLS, which have on YouTube over 1 million views. I did a video about landing on an aircraft carrier. I was out with the Navy and did a story, and we flew out and landed on an aircraft carrier and slept on it and stayed on it for a couple of days, and that story has done really well. The story that I told you about most recently, my hour-long special about my coverage at the border in Eagle Pass, Texas, that now has over 1 million views. So I know that some of my stuff is good enough, right? But now I want to ride my bike and do it. And, there's a lot of people who want to do that too. So, but I also have an aquarium channel called Fincasters, and that has 25,000 subscribers, and I have some videos on there that are way up in the high hundreds of thousands of views. So I know I can do it, but I'm just kind of like tripping along with this bike thing. And let's face it, I'm an old dog. And when people said TikTok, for me, it was just a big eye roll. It's okay, TikTok's the latest thing. It's going to come, it's going to go, da-da-da-da. There's the whole issue of do the Chinese own it? Are they stealing our data? Yeah, I don't know. I really don't know the answer to that. But anyway, my co-anchor says, you need a TikTok channel. And I was like, all right, I'll give it a try. So it was a big deal for me to give in and do TikTok. And then it's one more social media channel that I have to feed the social media beast. It just requires constant content, constant attention. But, and this is where my retirement comes in, wouldn't it be great if I could retire and still have a thriving YouTube channel where I could go around the country and create videos for a dedicated following on my bicycle and get some residual income from it and enjoy the process. So last night I fiddled around with my phone, and voila, there is now a Biking for Boomers TikTok channel. Yay, John. The idea is that people see my little videos there, and I direct them from there to the YouTube channel, and then they come and check out and hopefully subscribe to the content on YouTube, and they discover my Biking for Boomers channel. I don't know. Old dog, new tricks. And with sarcoidosis, there's always a sense that, well, I better do it now before it gets worse, as I've mentioned. So, and I have no idea how many of you listening use TikTok, have a TikTok channel. It tends to be something for younger people. I don't know. But anyway, if you're on TikTok, do a little search, Biking for Boomers, check it out, or just go to YouTube and check it out, and hopefully you'll find it. Okay. So anyway, I am trying, people. I am trying. Maybe I should just stick to podcasting. I don't know. But thank you for letting me put that out there. Please stand by. The important stuff is coming up. Jessica Souls is up next here on the FSR Sarc Fighter podcast, and she's going to share her sarcoidosis story.
I feel like a zombie, just feeding and stumbling.
Hi, I hope you're enjoying the Sarc Fighter podcast. You may be wondering, what can I do to help? How can I be a part of the sarcoidosis solution? It's simple. Make a donation to KISS, Kick In to Stop Sarcoidosis. 100% of the money goes to the Foundation for Sarcoidosis Research. Look for a link in the show notes of the Sarc Fighter podcast. Welcome back to the FSR Sarc Fighter podcast. Joining me today is Jessica Souls in Verona, Kentucky, which is actually not that far from Cincinnati. Jessica, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Sure. So you and I have a very similar sarcoidosis condition in that you are a neurosarc fighter, and it's also on your spinal cord, right?
Absolutely, yes. It's in my spinal cord.
Okay. And how long have you been dealing with this?
So in 2022, that's when I developed the symptoms in August. I was coming back to school, and it was the week that we were getting ready to have our preschoolers come back in, and I'm a director of preschool. And so I developed this. I woke up one morning on a Monday it was more like Sunday night. I kind of felt a little tingling in my feet. Woke up the next morning, and I was like, I came to work and my feet are numb. And I said to my coworker, "Hey, my feet are numb." And I don't think that's right. So I'm like, kind of hesitate. I'm like, it's just not going away. And it felt like somebody had just somebody had put numbing cream on my feet, and it wouldn't go away. So, I woke up the next morning, all right. The next morning it traveled up. I went to the doctor. He said, "Well, I don't think you're quite there yet. You need to go to if it goes into the region where you use the restroom and all that, you check that out." And I was like, I don't know. And so the next day he ordered me some, because I had been dealing with neck issues for 2 years, been on and off steroids for 2 years. My neck would hurt because I had stenosis in my spinal cord, and I have some degeneration in the disc. Well, he said, go ahead and, here's some x-rays. So by Thursday, I wipe and I just realized, oh yeah, I'm feeling it up here. It's coming up to my chest. I'm feeling a tingling in my lips at times, and it would go away, feel tingling in my jaws. And as soon as I got up the next Thursday night, I was like, this isn't right. So Friday, I went in and got the x-rays, and I knew I didn't want to go admit myself right yet to the emergency room because I knew it would take a while to even get the x-rays. So I was like, I'll get those done first. I walk into the emergency room and tell them, and I was there pretty much almost the whole day. They're like, we have to transport you to the other hospital. And I was like, I could just walk over there. And they're like, no. They had given me a little bit of, I think, steroids at that point. They're like, you've got inflammation in your spine. And they said, you got some inflammation, and we think it's the disc bulging. So we're going to schedule you for surgery right away. And so I had an ACE, anterior spinal fusion, which means that they put a new disc in. And so, but before I had the surgery, the doctor said to me, the surgeon, "Hey, you have you have transverse myelitis." And I looked at him and I said, "Well, I know what that is." my son had similar issues when he was young. So I've read a lot about transverse myelitis. I know that's inflammation in the spine. So what are we going to do? And he's like, well, I'm going to consult with a neurologist. You probably have a spinal tap. Because I asked him, I said, oh, well, I'll probably have to have spinal tap and all that. And he said, yeah. He goes, so I want the neurologist to consult. So the neurologist consulted me and said, hey, I really think it's just the disc pushing in that's causing this, but he goes, the surgeon was like, I don't really see people with this kind of inflammation in their spine from just a disc pushing in. So
you had a lot going on with your spine. They had to kind of sort it out, didn't they?
They had to kind of sort it out, and I agreed. And I thought they were going to do the spinal tap anyway, but they didn't. If they would have, I think they would have been like, oh, this is more than just pushing in. I don't know whether I would have had to have the surgery or not. I think I would have. My stenosis was pretty bad, but they're like, oh, if you get hit in an accident, you're going to be paralyzed. So I was like, oh, I guess I'm that fragile. So.
Yeah, right. So how did they get to sarcoidosis?
So how they got to sarcoidosis. So the next week and a half, I didn't improve. I still had the numbness. That's fine. Because they had given me steroids for the surgery. But then afterwards, like a week and a half after, all of a sudden I could not lay down. Every time I moved, it felt like there was this rod up my spine and it was hurting. And it was just like every time I moved, and it was extreme enough that I was crying. Plus, I was coming off all of my meds that they had given me.
Right.
So I went back in and I actually called and I was like, I really need to just go to the ER. So we went to the ER. I told them, I was like, I couldn't move. They had to give me lots of morphine, lots of drugs to get me to lay down. They couldn't do another spinal tap laying down. They had to do it sitting up. The neurologist came in and said, hey, I think you might have neuro-optic spectrum disorder, that's what's causing the inflammation. It has, expanded in your spine. You had this prior to having this is what's causing the major cause of what you had before. And he said, I want you to see the neuroimmunologist. So I was in the hospital for 4 days getting high doses of steroids, which I've never felt any more tired than my life. You know how they say steroids are supposed to give you lots of energy?
Amp you up, yeah.
It did not. Like afterwards, I was the most tired I have ever been. It just hit me like a brick wall. So I could hardly walk. Like I was having so I went to the neuroimmunologist. She's like moving my toe. She's like, which way am I moving it? I'm like, I don't know. I can't feel, like, I don't know where my placement is with my feet. I was walking very slow. It was very hard to walk up steps. That's when she looked at my cord, and she had done some time at Mayo Clinic, and she looked at the sliced part of the cord and all of my information. And she's like, I'm going to order all this stuff to go to the Mayo Clinic, because we don't know at this point. It could be cancer. It could be a lot of things. But she said, looking at your MRI, if you slice it in half in the cord, if you see this, it looks like a trident sign. And that is a hallmark, I guess. Somebody at the Mayo Clinic said, hey, if it looks like a trident sign, it's probably neurosarcoidosis. So she said, I'm going to send you to the the sarcoidosis people at Cleveland Clinic. So that's when I went up to Cleveland Clinic. I had to do the test for, of course, the PET scan and all of the blood work. I had to do another spinal tap. So I did do another spinal tap. It did show like I had logical bands at that point. I had 3, which you can have with NMOSD. You can have with sarc, you can have, which is kind of, but that showed up. She took me off my steroids because I asked for a steroid taper when I left. And I'll tell you the reasons why is because when my son had,
okay.
Yeah.
I mean, steroids is what you need right then if you've got sarcoidosis.
Right. So I had just had a major dose of steroids. I asked the doctor, IV doses, and then they gave me oral, heavy doses of oral steroids. And I was like, I want to taper because I know coming out of the hospital when my son had something similar, that was really could have helped him a lot more when he was in the hospital. But that was in 2009, and they didn't do a whole lot. And there's not a lot of clinical, like, this is how you treat it. Especially at that time, they didn't treat it as aggressive. So I asked for that, and he gave it to me. But she was like, I want to take you off the steroids because I want you to have all these tests, and I want to see, what's happening. The PET scan showed I had lymph nodes in the hilar 4 and 10. They were pretty big. And so they had to do a bronchoscopy. Well, anyway, yes. So they went in and they tested it, didn't find anything. They think that because I was on such high doses of steroids that it basically
shrunk everything,
did whatever it needed to do, but they were still inflamed. But I had lymphocytes in them, but it wasn't cancer. Yes.
Yeah. Well, yeah. It's not good news. It's not cancer. You have an incurable disease. Yes. So let's jump forward a little bit. So you're going through all of these tests, and they're trying to figure it out, and everything feels like it's going to be sarcoidosis. So what ultimately did they land on as your diagnosis? You have sarc on your spinal cord at C6, is that right? That's a very familiar story to me.
C6, 7. It, like I said, they thought that it, my scans went all the way to mid T1. And then after the surgery, I had a lot of, could be white cord syndrome, where they opened it up so much that the inflammation just came down. And I don't know if really that is all the way, because it went from C3 all the way to T5. So I don't know at that point, I don't know if that's all the sarc, or if that's just more of like the inflammation that kind of came down, or if it just grew. I'm not really sure, but the main part is the C6, 7 to T1.
Okay. And so what, I mean, you're working, because I'm talking to you, and you're at the school where you work. So you're obviously are functioning, right?
Yeah, I'm functioning.
So how is your day-to-day life right now?
Daily life is good. I've had to work with medicines to get me here. I could not walk across the school to go to the other school, across the school facilities. I was having trouble with walking because my feet were hurting all the time. So I was on a low dose of gabapentin. They put me on Cymbalta right away afterwards. And then I was on steroids until last August. And then I'm on methotrexate only.
How do you take the shot of methotrexate? Do you give yourself a shot?
No, they said that I'm doing really good with the 20 milligrams a week that I get through the pills. I'm not really having any issues with that. But I had to up my gabapentin, and when I did, I felt a little not very good, like angry and like upset. And so
really? Okay.
I ended up, I had upped it up to like 600 twice a day. And then I was like, I'm tired all the time. Like, I was tired. I go to bed at 7:30, and that's been like my biggest complaint through this whole time, staying awake. The fatigue. I'm a jazzercise instructor. I pushed through that. I would do a standing class only. I can't jump. I mean, I could jump, but I'm afraid to jump because I can't really feel my feet land on the floor. And I do not want to hurt myself. And I've always been a dancer throughout my life. I was in brass theater. I was in drum corps. So like I always moved. So I just went, I was like miserable and having just neck pain all the time still. So finding the right the doses. So I upped my Cymbalta, I lowered my gabapentin, and that seemed to be the right key to helping keep the pain from my feet, and I can actually walk.
You can walk, but you can't.
So,
okay. So, I mean, you're obviously thin and fit. So I don't know whether they.
I can't say that I was thin and fit. So last August, I had gained, I really hadn't gained pound. I went on an anti-inflammatory diet. That whole time I was vegan. I didn't eat gluten. I didn't eat soy, corn, you name the 5 ones, and I did not eat them. And so then August, I came off the steroids, and I gained from August, and you would think that I would gain a lot of weight, like with the steroids, but I was on a diet, and I stopped the diet and slowly entered in some meats and stuff. And so from August to December, I gained over 50 pounds.
Wow.
So, and I went to my regular doctor because the Cleveland doctors were like, oh, have you tried, I'm like, I'm not eating much. I am really not eating much. Like, if you look at my day to day, I'm not eating. And a lot of times I'll eat 1 meal a day. And I'm like, I don't know why I'm gaining weight. I'll eat a little bit and it's just 5 pounds more. And it was just going up and up. And to gain that weight so quickly, he would not give me the Ozempic shot because I said I didn't overeat. So I went to and I don't, you have to consult with your doctor, but I went to a med spa and said, I want the semaglutide shot. And I've been doing that since January, and I've lost 50 pounds.
Wow.
Which has made me feel better. And it's been like a miracle. And then in that time, I've talked to Cleveland doctors and work with my doctor. And with the fatigue issue, I asked, because I had to do a sleep study, and they found that I had a little bit of a sleep apnea, not that much, but they're like, oh, if you lose weight, it'll go away. I mean, really only have like 4 incidences a night, and really 4 to 6, and that's not even really considered. I don't know. It's just so I had tried that, and I'm like, I'm exhausted. I'm still doing this. So I said, I want to. He said, well, what about a stimulant? And I said, well, yeah. So I got my doctor on board down here, and she got me on afriniphenol. It's a narcolepsy drug. And I started taking a low dose at 50. I've had some medical issues since then that kind of like I wouldn't up it really quick because I had kidney stones. That was another thing. I haven't had kidney stones all my life. And I had my first kidney stone last year. And then I had a kidney stone that was causing me, I didn't realize it was causing me issues. And I had the laparoscopy. And so I didn't up my dose yet. So then after all that, I was like still really tired, but I upped it to 100 milligrams, and that's been game changing, like life changing. Like I can stay up, I can go out to see my friends, I can stay awake at work, and I feel like I can.
And what is it what drug is that?
It's a narcolepsy drug, I'm going to say it wrong, afriniphenol or something. And like I said, getting all that combination, I'm doing well now.
Huh. Wow, that's crazy. So you've got, it's hard to unpack everything that you've got going on. Are you still the jazzercise instructor? You still doing that? I
it's been a little stressful. So we moved and everything, and I'm going to probably quit just because I don't feel like I can show things, stand on one foot, do the exercises. I'm up there really modifying. So I don't feel at my best fitness level to continue on. So I'm probably in October, November, we renew, and I've been doing it for 15 years. So I probably won't renew my jazzercise. I might go to classes again. I just needed a break. I needed to relax my body because I felt like I was stressing myself out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm just curious with with all the bouncing around. I mean, because people have heard me talk about that sensation of not really being able to feel your feet. And then so, I used to be a runner, and I can't run anymore because I land awkwardly on every step. And my brain just doesn't speak to my legs the way that it used to. So thankfully I can ride my bike, and I'm happy with that. But so you're up there hopping around, jumping around in the
No,
gym and trying
no.
to do all that stuff, and it's really awkward, right?
Yeah. Well, so like when I came back, there's no jumping. There was no moving, like just standing for a while to just step side to side. Like I know how to modify things. I could not jump. I had to be very careful where I placed my feet. If things were fast, I didn't do it. Chasses are weird. So I have an option. We have different formats in jazzercise where we, are able to teach you just an all strength class. So in all strength class, you're not jumping. You're doing a lot of squats. You're doing a lot of leg lifts, but you have to stand on one foot, right?
Yeah. How's your balance for that? Not good, right?
Right. And there's many times I have to stand or and it hurts, like it was hurting back then when I was doing it because I didn't have my medicines correct, and it was just making everything worse. So I used the wall a lot and said, okay, I'm not going down as far, and felt a little off balance and just worried about where I was placing my feet, especially when you go on the balls of your feet, because I'm like, am I arching too much? I don't know.
Right.
I don't want to
Right.
hurt my feet and stretch them out too much, and cause something that I don't realize. So
Yeah. So you you're basically functioning. You're in either control or remission right now. You're taking the methotrexate. You're walking around, and you see Dr. Moss at the Cleveland Clinic, who
I
is
love him.
he's my doctor also,
Is he?
which is amazing. That so many people I interview have the same doctors that I do. Um, so your outlook right now is what?
My outlook is I am happy where I'm at. If I can do this for the rest of the time, I'm great. But I get worried. Like I pay attention to my symptoms. Like if there's something, I'm going to let them know. If something changes, he said I would be on they said I would probably be on methotrexate for a long time because he kind of gave me like a little bit of a statistic, and I don't know if I should like say it again, but it was like something after 5 years, if you're not on it, it could come back at a 50%. And if you're not on it at 10 years, it could come back at a third. Like you have a third of a chance for it to come back. And, they don't want it to come back in that area because, as you know, we want to be able to function and walk and don't want to have long-term symptoms.
If you have spinal cord damage, it doesn't repair itself. That's the problem.
No. You have an incoming call. And that's exactly what happened. You have an incoming call.
All right.
I do not want it to come back, and I don't know if it'll ever come back. I mean, I know that our statistics, because it is a rare, we're in the like really low, there's not two of us. It's interesting. I was listening to your podcast and I found you, and I was like, because I was just like, I really want to listen to this. and see what am I up against, right?
Yeah.
Which is what's helpful with you giving hope and kind of, hearing other people's stories and hearing that, the trials and tribulations, and just kind of like, oh, I never thought of, maybe I should think about that. Or, okay, I'm on the right path. There's somebody out there similar. So I'll just take methotrexate for a long time and hope that I will get another lung function test. I've asked for, to check out my lungs again, because, I've had some breathing issues, like at times where I'm really out of breath. Like I should not be this out of breath. And you talk about running. Back in the day, in 2009, I was training for my first, if you want me to go into the next section.
Yeah,
I was training for my first 2009. I was training for my first half marathon, and that's when Kendall got sick. I had never done a half marathon. It was in Indianapolis. I was doing have you done the Indy 500 one?
But I've heard of
The
it.
half
Yes.
marathon.
The half
It's
marathon.
fun.
Yeah, it's called the mini, isn't it?
The mini, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And we have lots of friends that live in Indianapolis. I'm from Indiana. So I was going to run with Jonnie's Goodguys. I had ran a year before just the 5K. I was like, I'm going to work out and I'm going to try to run. And I was in really good shape. I was ready for that. I was running 10-minute miles. For me who never ran, and I really got in shape, and I couldn't do the mini because Kendall was in the hospital and sick. So I got some training wheels. The group had some training wheels they passed on, but because they were like next year, right?
Right.
So Jonnie's Goodguys is a running. We run, and the reason why we run is for our friend Jonathan. I marched with him in drum corps, a Star of Indiana. It's hard to talk about. We were actually, Brian, my husband, and I and my son were at his house that day, and and we went and visited him and his daughter. It was back in 2005. He was 33 years old. We were at his house. We had just ate lunch that day, went back to his house. He left. Him and Amy had a little girl, and that's why we came. And so we were going to stay the night. And it was also Bands of America weekend. So in Indianapolis, they have the big Bands of America weekend. My husband wanted to go see it because my husband still teaches drum corps and bands. He went with his friend Ed Kooning, and our friend Jonnie, he went to work, and he worked downtown at a bar. There was a bartender, and he dropped to the floor, and they couldn't revive him. My husband and our friend Ed ran back when they heard, because they got a call and said, you need to come back to the bar. As they got to the bar, as they were walking back, they saw the ambulance, and they got in the ambulance with him, and they got to the hospital. He had passed away from an aortic dissection. So it was suspected that he had Marfan's syndrome. So and aortic dissertions are also hereditary. So after he passed away, he had ran the mini marathon and tried to get a lot of people to run the mini marathon. And he was also engaged, he, at the end of when they ran, he also proposed to his wife.
Oh, wow. Oh, God.
At the end. Yeah. So the mini marathon has many connections with John. So so his friends, especially Ed, created Jonnie's Goodguys in order to educate and advocate for heart and aortic health and connective tissue disorders.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's what Johnny's Goodguys is.
That's what they do. And so also with Marfan's syndrome, if anybody knows about Marfan's, you typically are very tall. Your wingspan of your arm length is longer than your height. Like your,
okay.
It's, and your fingers are long. You could have a concave chest. There, if you go on to, they think that's actually what John Ritter passed away from. And so there is the John Ritter Foundation that supports Marfan. And but they created Johnny's Goodguys. And so our friend Ed ran half marathons all around the country. And he was like, I'm going to run 13 half marathons. And I may get this wrong he'll listen to this later, but he's ran in the Boston Marathon, and just to support and raise awareness for Johnny's Goodguys. And we all get together at times when we can run and run for Johnny's Goodguys. So
do you still run? Are you able to run with your sarc?
I haven't even tried.
No, I
don't want to. I just think I'd be worried, like, I don't know, my feet. And we just moved to a 1-level house. Lucky enough, thank God. Right after I got sick, I was like, I don't want to go up and down these stairs. I don't know what my long-term thought is. I want a 1-level. Looked around here. They were a lot expensive, but my coworker said she'd just built a house and it was a year old. She's like, well, we're selling our house. And I was like, oh, really? I'm going to come and visit it. And she had just built it, and it was beautiful. It had everything up here in this area, but a little bit less, bigger land in the country, just awesome. And I was like, how lucky am I?
Yeah, no kidding. But you were willing to move houses because you didn't feel like you could go up and down stairs, or you just didn't want to. I know that feeling.
It was slow. I was like, I couldn't make myself go up any faster. Does that make sense?
Yes.
I was like, there is no way. Like, I push through things, but there is no way of making myself move any faster.
Right. It's not pain. Like, your legs just won't do it.
It won't do it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. No, I know it. If I'm with a group of people, I love to hike. But if somebody starts hiking quickly, I can't keep up, and I'm not tired. My legs just literally won't go any faster.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's embarrassing because I used to be the guy out front.
Yes, me too. Yeah. I was always, my parents was like, leave my parents behind, leave my husband behind. Like, I'm the fast walker. I feel like I've gotten better at walking and going a little faster and pushing myself. Like, I could do it a lot more than I did before. So I feel like that has improved. But I moved houses because I'm worried. I was worried.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we've been talking for over an hour now. So, Jessica, I just want to thank you for sharing your story on the podcast. I so appreciate it. And you've had a tough haul, a lot of misdiagnoses or long diagnoses, and that's kind of typical of what we all go through.
Yeah, I feel kind of lucky though that I landed on I'm in a good area where I have knowledgeable doctors, and I feel like I didn't have to wait that long, like, compared to what I've heard. And that's sad. Like, if I could say anything, is reach out and find the experts in those fields, because even when my son went to go see Children's Hospital, the neurologists, some of them are like, we only see 10 cases a year, if that, at the hospital. And then your outside doctors in other regions may only see one or none.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So And I just wanted to quickly say, if you wouldn't mind putting on the website, I'll share that with you about Jonnie's Goodguys, because they do give assistance for heart scans. And you've had a lot of aortic or a lot of cardiac heart sarc people too. And you just never know about your heart health, of where you're at. And like I said, his two siblings had aortic dissections, and it's hereditary. And two of his siblings were able to have preventative measures to repair their aortas to keep them from having dissections, which basically floods the heart with blood, and then you may not be able to be revived.
Sure.
So I would appreciate if you share that with your listeners, because we want to get the word out about aortic health. And they provide heart scans. They're $50. They will pay for them. It's on the website. There's lots of information there.
Okay, I'll be happy to do that. I'll be happy to do this. So we're talking about Marfan's. We're talking about the issues with your son, and then you with sarcoidosis. We just had a lot going on today, but thank
Sorry.
you.
Yeah, it was a lot.
It's okay. But thanks for your work in all these areas, because that's what it takes. It takes people to step up and just showing up and doing, whatever needs to be done is how things get accomplished.
Yeah, and I'm willing to share stories or anything. It was really hard for me to share my story, even to let my friends know, because I've had friends that have had lots of issues going on around the same time, and like serious issues. So I'm like, I thought, it's just, I just got feeling in my feet. I can't feel, but I can still walk. I'm just not able to do some of the things, but I do worry, I'm like you, but.
Yeah. Well, thank you for joining me today.
Well, thank you. It's nice meeting you. If there's any time, I'd love to talk some other time, and I'll keep in touch, because we're very similar.
Okay. Thank you, Jessica.
Maybe we'll pass each other by at one of our appointments.
There you go. Take care.
Thank you. Bye.
I feel like a zombie, just feeding and stumbling.
So thanks to Jessica for sharing her story. Man, it's so close to my own in terms of her sarc involvement. Thanks to her also for telling the story of Jonnie's Goodguys. It's so sad, and she was so close to her friend Jonnie right there at home with his family when he passed away. And so because of her, I went and read about Marfan syndrome, and it is just awful. It really is. It's another one of these rare diseases that's out there, and she wanted to talk about it. So I will put a link to Jonnie's Goodguys in the show notes, and then that has lots of links to more information, including something called the Marfan Foundation, if you want to know more. And of course, let's not forget about the people who are raising money for FSR this summer. From the last episode, there's Kaylee Steyer, the wife of Mark Steyer, who sings the sarcoidosis sarc fighter song, which is Zombie. Kaylee is training to run the New York Marathon on behalf of FSR. She's one of the official entrants. That FSR just has a few places that are granted because we're a nonprofit. And Kaylee is one of those people. So she's raising money, a link in the show notes. Let's make her efforts worthwhile and send her some money. And then there's Royce Robertson, who is riding his bike from Albany, New York to New York City, and that's several hundred miles. And he's doing that right about now as I speak. He's doing it in August of 2024. So Cycle for Sarc is Royce. So let's help him out and send him some money as well. I'll be doing that myself. The official sarc fighter song is called Zombie by Mark Steyer, and he plays in a band called the White Hot Lizards in Alberta, Canada. And Mark was in the very last episode with an update to his situation. Hasn't gone great for him, but go back and listen to the episode prior to this one if you want to get an update on Mark. Also, remember that the podcast comes out every other Monday. As I'm speaking today, my trusty dog Dougal is curled up on the chair in my office, and Shandy is under the table in my office. So I get 2 dogs today. The backstory to the founding of the Foundation for Sarcoidosis Research is episode 11 with Andrea and Redding Wilson. Please follow the Sarc Fighter. Here it comes on social media, Facebook, Instagram, not on TikTok, not yet, but I am on Peloton as Sarc Fighter. And my cycling blog, Carlin the Cyclist, does have a section called Cycling with Sarcoidosis. If you're new here and you're just trying to figure out what sarc is, try listening to episode 2 with Dr. Simon Hart. My story is episode 1. Please send me an email. It's in the show notes, carlinagency@gmail.com. Until next time, keep fighting.
Learn to suffer, you feel pain someday. Learn endurance, your strength will fade away. Dead man walking, trying to keep up the pace. Dead man walking,